Okay, please get ready to take notes on a new verb form called the conditional or condicional. Some of you have already done some of this, so you probably just have to revisit your notes and add to it a little bit. So first we're going to see what it looks like. It's going to be different than other forms of the verb because you keep the whole infinitive and you add these endings to it. There's also no difference between AR, ER, and IR verbs. They all use these endings, and they all keep the whole infinitive. You're not going to drop the AR, ER, IR beforehand. So, for a verb like pagar, you can see here, you're keeping the whole infinitive. You're not dropping this AR first, and you're adding these IA endings all the way through. All right? Ser, usually totally irregular. It's actually following the rules here. Ser with IA on the end. And here we have an IR verb instead of an AR verb, but you can see same set of endings. Okay, so this is probably something you want to put into your notes in addition to the previous slide. Regular verbs in the condicional. Most of them are going to be shorter, but if you notice, they're still going to have an R before the IA, just like an infinitive would. All right, so you can see that most of these are just kind of truncated. They're kind of squished together. It's like letters disappear in the middle in order to make this form, right? The E just kind of disappears here. And you've got these other ones that are like these ones with the extra D's in them. These two right here, venir and tener. And haber, this is the verb I, like there is or there are in this verb form. So there would be. All right, so what's it used for? Hypothetical situations. So for those of you who did the house project, my house would have these things, but we can use it for a lot of other things too. Would you take biomed? I would never take Digital 2. Tomas would like to go to a good college. So you just take the verb take, which is tomar, and put it in the conditional form. So tomaria, or this is you, so tomarias, that is would you take, tomarias. So we'll see those on the next slide. Would you take biomed? Tomarias. Would you take? I would never take. Tomaria is your, I would take. So, and so on. So when we're talking about these hypothetical situations, it's kind of like something that's in the future, but it's not certain. So I'm saying I would take Spanish 4, as opposed to I will take Spanish 4. Take a second, make sure you can explain the difference between these two statements. How do they sound to you? Right, the other thing we need to be careful of is the word would in English we can use for a lot of different things. It can be kind of confusing. Another tense is called the imperfect. It's just another past tense, okay? So, for example, if I say, when I was a kid, we would visit my grandparents in Maine. I'm not talking about a hypothetical situation. I'm not talking about something in the future. This is in the past, okay? It's a description of habitual action in the past. All right, so in this, it's more like I used to visit my grandparents, right? So it's not going to use that conditional form. It would be this other tense, the imperfecto. All right, so think about it when you're trying to decide if you're using the word, if you're thinking you want to use the word would in English, is it more like using the word I will, or is it more like using I used to, okay? So we're going to look at a few examples here. I want you to take a second. I want you to number 1 through 9, and I want you to write down whether it's past or whether it's hypothetical. All right, you can even put like a P or an H, whatever. All right, so would you pass me the salt? Well, is that, as we just said on the previous slide, is that more like will, or is that used to? If it's will, if it's more like will, would, then it's hypothetical because it's kind of in the future. If it's more like used to, then it's the past. So think about that. Number 1 through 9, put your answers down. Conditional can also be used for politeness. We do this in English also, right? Me prestarías 5 euro, right? Would you lend me 5 euro, as opposed to saying just lend me, right? I don't understand the homework. Would you help me? Right? Would you help me with the homework? That's a polite, more gentle or polite way of asking for help. All right, one more use. This is more complicated. You don't have to know this right now, but you will have to know this later this year. It's also used when you're telling a story in the past, talking about an event that seemed certain to happen in the future at the time in the past. So you're going to have to tell a story like this later this year. My great-grandparents thought that they would find more opportunities in America. So for them, for your great-grandparents, this is kind of the future for them when they're thinking about finding those opportunities, but they're pretty sure it's going to happen. So for them, I mean, it's a little bit like that hypothetical, but it's in the past tense, right? So it's used as a way of telling stories in the past as well. So they thought that they would find. You can see that conditional there also. A couple more examples. I knew that they would arrive late. Right? I'm kind of making a prediction in the past. Right? We thought that the exam would be difficult. Again, making a prediction in the past, but it's not really the future, right? So I'm telling a story in the past and kind of making predictions within that context. All right. If this slide seems like too much for you right now, that's okay. This we'll get to later. But at least the beginning part there and the part where I asked you to decide whether it's hypothetical or past tense, I hope that is making some sense. Be prepared with show me some notes tomorrow, and be prepared to ask any questions on something that you're confused about. Gracias.